Hi everybody, I'm Dr. John Douillard. Welcome to LifeSpa.com, where we prove the ancient medical wisdom of Ayurveda with modern science. And today I want to talk about daylight saving time. What a bad idea daylight saving time was when they started it back in 1966. We've had some pretty amazing science I want to talk about today and how bad it is and what the problems with it are. And I want to talk about the Ayurvedic wisdom that also supports the idea that we should probably stop this crazy thing called daylight savings time. In 2019, the EU decided to vote on it, and they voted to get rid of daylight savings time, which is in the process of happening. Here in America, they've talked about it, but nothing's really happened yet. Here's some of the interesting science. It's really important. It messes with our circadian rhythms, which is now Nobel Prize winning science. Work on circadian rhythms won the Nobel Prize in 2018, so that's really important. In one study, they found that that motor vehicle accidents were significantly increased on the Monday after the spring shift into daylight savings time. They also found there was an increase in the fall when they left daylight savings time. So the transitions are just not a good thing for us. It messes with our circadian rhythms in a pretty significant way. In another study, there's 16% increase in motor vehicle accidents on the first day of daylight savings time, and a 12% increase in motor vehicle accidents on the second day of daylight savings time. Also not a good idea. In a European study, they actually found that during the first week of daylight saving time in the spring, there was an increase of death, what they call all-cause mortality, death from any type of condition. They also had an increased risk of suicides, really not a good thing. Daylight saving time has also been shown in studies to increase heart attacks due to the disturbance of our circadian rhythms. Some people take a week or two for us to get back into rhythm. I don't know if you're noticing that right now, but a lot of folks are just sort of out of sync. And hospitals pay a huge price for this because a lot of the medications are all timed to the clock. The medication turns on and turns off at different times of day. And oftentimes with daylight saving time, they don't adjust for that time, so people get their medication at the wrong time or they don't get it. And those things are really problematic. Now in Ayurvedic medicine, the sunrise and the sunset is like a really important Zeitgeker. It's a time where the body's biological clocks get turned on or get turned off during sunrise and sunset. This is when we should sort of synchronize our watches so we know exactly, our biological clocks know exactly when daytime starts and when daytime stops. And with daylight savings time, the general theme is you miss the sunrise. And now with standard time, which we're in now, you generally wake up more early, you generally wake up with the sun, and you're there for the sunrise and the sunset. So there's a lot of subtle energy benefits that take place with the sunrise. First of all, in the morning, before the hour before the sunrise, it's called the blue hour. When the sun rises, the red and the orange and the yellow rays shine. And it's the contrast between the blue, which is on the faster frequency side of the visual light spectrum, and the red and the orange, which is on the slower side. It's the contrast that actually turns on and off your biological clocks, both at sunrise and sunset. Because early apes, early hominids, didn't have color vision. So it wasn't just the blue light that's the problem. We always think blue light and the screens, it's all about blue light. Well, in sunrise and sunset, from a circadian medicine, circadian rhythm perspective, it's the contrast. So actually watching that sunrise during standard time, not during daylight saving time, because most people sleep in during that period of time, or they're seeing it when they drive to work, which is much different. During that period of time, the contrast between the blue and the scattered across the sky at sunrise, or in the blue hour before sunrise, and the red and the orange and yellow is what actually turns on or off on and off our biological clocks, which is kind of cool. A similar thing happens as sunset. The orange and the red light actually allows the body to produce the melatonin, because the blue is a blocker for melatonin. That blue hour is what shuts down the melatonin production and keeps you asleep and wakes you up. And then the contrast turns the biological clocks on. At the sunset, we have the red and the orange light at the sunset, which actually allows the body to start producing melatonin to get you ready for sleep, which is really neat. Diving into a little bit more subtle Ayurvedic research, there's subtle energy channels called the Ida and Pingala, subtle energy channels that run up and down your spine. And they're related to our breathing. So every 90 minutes, your dominant nostril goes from one side to the other, from the other side to the other. And then these two nadis are energy carrying pathways, and in the middle of them is something called Sushumna, and that's the one that's called Kundalini and Kundalini rising, and you've heard of all that. Well, that's actually the nadi that goes through Kundalini. Well, guess what happens? During the day, every 90 minutes, your nostril shifts from the energy from the Ida to Pingala to one side to the other. But during sunrise and sunset, for 1 to 3 minutes, the energy from the Vedic perspective spends 1 to 3 minutes in Sushumna, in that spiritual process. So it is safe to say that the spiritual gains, the spiritual boost, the spiritual progress can be dramatically improved by meditating and being present and aware during the actual sunrise and sunset, when you get where the energy goes into the main spiritual channel, the Sushumna nadi, which is so critically important. So a little bit more subtle than you're probably used to, but I've written articles about the subtle energy, nadi pathways, and spiritual energy. You can read about on my website at LifeSpa.com if you like this information. Like us, and when you visit our store or when you visit our website, please think about signing up for our newsletter and get this information 3 times a week in your inbox. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard.